Local and small businesses are accepting Bitcoin more and more people are trading Bitcoin, and major predictions are likely to unfold in 2018. Major countries like Russia, the US, and the UK are seriously considering their own crypto fiat currency. Let it be the CryptoRuble or the crypto pound sterling or the FedNote FedCoin in the US. So what are the intentions of these fiat cryptos? How fast are we expecting them to see them come to life? Will these nations around the world be able to secure these centralized fiat cryptos? And is it possible for Bitcoin to really collapse due to government regulations? Let's discuss. Hello everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news, interviews, and ICO reviews. If you're new or not, tap that like button and subscribe to the show to show your support. It encourages us and it helps other people find this content. Also, leave your comments and your questions as you have them in the comments box below, so your voice is heard as part of this community. In this show, we're going to be talking about fiat crypto, cryptocurrencies that are created, controlled, and backed by nations and nation states around the world. We've heard about this speculation from the United States and from Russia, and it's becoming more and more evident, more and more clear to more and more people that this is the path we're going, this is the direction that we're going, and it will not be too much longer into the future before paper money is gone and people are simply using digital currency, let it be, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, Monero, or let it be the CryptoRuble or, the Fed dollar, right? But there's a lot going on in this world. There's a lot happening. We have a lot of material to cover. So with that being said, let's dive right in and let's discuss. Real quick, I thought this was funny. Here's this screenshot from Google News mentioning how Google News is so helpful and so useful. We have this one headline, Bitcoin can drop 50%. Second headline, Bitcoin could easily double. Really, anybody could be right and nobody could be right at the same time. Then over here you have Microsoft removes Bitcoin as a payment option. And then in a headline right underneath it, Microsoft restores Bitcoin as a payment option. News is happening very quickly. News is happening with ever more increasing complexity just because there's a lot of details. There's a lot of new developments. There's a lot of new business, a lot of new technology, a lot of new learnings of people taking this information in and then putting this information together to create new things in the world, and new currencies, new systems, new processes, and more people is the name of the game. This is headed in one direction. We are going up, and apparently you're a part of it. Here we have this petition to bring SegWit to Coinbase. This petition that we talked about before has nearly 5,000 signatures. And this is something, if you're interested, we'll have this linked in the show notes below for you to take a look. It has currently over 7,000 signatures, on its way for 7,500. I don't know if this is going to have any real effect for Coinbase. Coinbase is going to do what they want to do when they want to do it. I think it's important for our voices to be heard. I think it's important to have Coinbase recognize what it is that the consumers want, what it is that their customers want, and you can have your voice heard in different ways. You can give your time, or remove your time. You can give or remove your attention, and you can give or remove your dollars. You can also have your voice heard with petitions like this. Some people think it's pointless. We think that effort is meaningful and every drop of intention has power. So we mentioned this a second ago. Microsoft has restored the payment option for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is back in the show over at Microsoft after they worked with their people internally and externally to make sure that the smaller amounts of Bitcoin were going to be profitable for everybody and not create more problems for the users and the company than not. And so Microsoft removed Bitcoin payment, and now they restored a Bitcoin payment in there. And so all over the world, not just Microsoft, who took away Bitcoin and definitely wants to accept Bitcoin again, we have businesses all over the world who are accepting Bitcoin, who want to be accepting Bitcoin, large businesses, medium-sized businesses, and small businesses. And so here, this person's gym, they posted on Reddit, they are accepting Bitcoin at this gym, giving away apples and accepting Bitcoin. I mean, that sounds like a healthy life choice to me. Then over here we have this local car dealership. It says free Bitcoin with your new car. Definitely taking a hold of the Bitcoin craze, using the Bitcoin brand, the Bitcoin marketing to get people in their door to say, hey, what's this deal with the Bitcoin? And it's really interesting because, you know, maybe they get, you know, $100 back in Bitcoin. That $100 back in Bitcoin could later be worth more than the value of the car that they purchased on this lot. Super interesting when we think about the dynamics there. If you were someone that gave away, you know, $10 of Bitcoin, when that $10 of Bitcoin, when Bitcoin itself was $1,000, that $10 in Bitcoin is now worth, you know, about $150. So these values are increasing. It'd be really interesting to see some of these stories on Reddit moving forward, because this is how it's going to feel for a lot of people that have a Bitcoin now, and this is how it's going to feel for a lot of people when they realize they have Bitcoin later, and the new supply of Bitcoin is going to continue to decrease. And in 2020, in 2.5 years, we have that next halving of Bitcoin. So right now, every 10 minutes, there are about, 12.5 Bitcoins that are mined every 10 minutes with the Bitcoin miners. In 2.5 years, in 2020, that's going to get cut in half to 6.25. It's going to be just 6.25 new Bitcoin every 10 minutes, which means the supply is going to decrease. And if the demand stays the same or increases, and that value of that Bitcoin is going to make you feel like you have a golden ticket. So let's check to see all the people that bought Bitcoin before Christmas. Let's see if it's back up to $20,000. Nope. Definitely risky, definitely volatile. So, you know, people talk about dollar cost averaging, not spending more than you can afford to lose. There's a sense of urgency, but at the same time, you don't want to cause more problems in your life. You want to create fewer problems. You want to create more opportunity. So just be careful about being rash, about emotionally buying, about emotionally selling. A lot of risk out there in the world. So you guys probably saw this as well. And so this, I am from Rochester, New York, if you are not aware. And Rochester, New York is pretty awesome of a city. Has some pros, it has some cons. And Rochester, New York is where Kodak is from. So we have Kodak, and we see that Kodak stock price is soaring after they unveiled the Kodak coin. So even Kodak is getting involved with cryptocurrency, with ICOs. And you have this major company that is over 100 years old. And they're going to be introducing this new platform with the Kodak coin on the Kodak One platform. And it's going to simply allow photographers to register their images, to license their images, and then to also search the web for unauthorized usage of these photographers' images. And so this is going to be done through the Kodak One platform, the Kodak coin. Let's see what this quote here from the CEO, Jeff Clark, goes on to say. For many in the tech industry, blockchain and cryptocurrency are hot buzzwords, but for photographers who've long struggled to assert control over the work and how it's being used, these buzzwords are the keys to solving what it felt like an unsolvable problem. And so Kodak has always sought to democratize photography and make licensing fair to artists. And so these technologies give the photography community an innovative and easy way to do just that. And so here we go. This Kodak Coin ICO is going to be launched on January 31st. The token sale is only going to be open to accredited investors. And then those tokens will hit the market, and then I'm sure anybody will be able to get in on one of those. Real quick, what does this mean? What this means is that with a company as traditional and old as Kodak getting involved in this new weird, cryptocurrency craze, then there's going to be a lot of other companies that are older companies or traditional companies or conservative companies that are now going to look at this Bitcoin and blockchain technology and take it seriously for their business. If the banks are doing it, if the futures are accepting it, if the regulators are allowing these things to happen, if Kodak is doing it, if my local gym is accepting it, if my kid won't stop talking about Bitcoin, then maybe there's something here. It's definitely super interesting. Last thing about the Kodak situation is that Kodak is also releasing these Bitcoin miners. I really don't get it. But what's going on is that they're releasing these Bitcoin miners, and they're saying that you can pay half of the cost now, which is $3,400, and then you pay half of the cost later, which is $3,400, and then you just have like this financing, this 22-month financing for $375 a month. And what people are forgetting is that the difficulty is going to go up, and so every month the amount of money you're going to make is going to be decreasing month after month after month, because the difficulty to mine Bitcoin is going to go up and up and up as more and more miners come online. And so there's people who may never be able to pay these back with cash, and it's sort of like a mining contract where you better off just buying the Bitcoin directly, because this either wasn't thought out thoroughly, or there were people involved with this process who knew what the deal was, and didn't say anything, and let this go through. I'm sure the people selling Kodak, these miners, probably failed to mention how the difficulty is going to make this not as profitable necessarily for people moving forward. So just talking about what's going on and what's happening with the world, the continuing of this to increase, we have E-Trade, which begins the CME Bitcoin trading as of yesterday, Tuesday evening. And so E-Trade is allowing CME Bitcoin trading as of 6 p.m. on Tuesday. And CBOE Global Markets rolled out their first Bitcoin futures last month, followed by the CME. We know the New York Stock Exchange is also going to be issuing their Bitcoin futures as well. And we actually have some breaking news. Warren Buffett on cryptocurrencies, that he can say almost with certainty that they will come to a bad ending. So that's Warren Buffett's breaking news. Him saying that they will come to a bad ending. Sounds to me as if Warren Buffett doesn't have his position in cryptocurrencies yet, and he wants to crash the market to get in. He goes on to say when it's happening or how or anything else he doesn't know. He just says it's going to be going very poorly. This is a day after Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase said that Bitcoin is not a fraud. The thing that you want to know about Warren Buffett is that Warren Buffett is in the his business. He's in the insurance industry. He's in the insurance business. And if cryptocurrency does well and fiat does bad, then it may cost him more by having to pay out more claims that may end up coming about. So there's just a difference in the Bitcoin price and the US dollar price, and it's just counterintuitive for an insurance-like agency to want to see deflationary aspects in their payouts as opposed to the inflationary. If you're holding on lots of money and you have $1 billion and someone has an insurance contract for $1 million, well, if they had that insurance contract for 20 years ago, it's going to be a different value of money. And so it's not in the best interests of Warren Buffett for Bitcoin to blow up, just like it's not in the best interests of the banks for Bitcoin to blow up. So it'd be really interesting to see what else he says, and if he has any evidence or if he's just saying this. But it's not just Warren Buffett. It's also Harvard professors who are predicting that Bitcoin will collapse due to government regulation. And so this is Professor Kenneth Rogoff, and he said small anonymous transactions, virtual currencies, would be desirable, but large-scale anonymous payments would make it extremely difficult to collect taxes and to counter criminal activity. And he says that the government could let cryptocurrencies peacefully exist and not accept them as a means of payment. And that's what this person says that they should do. But what he thinks is that sooner or later the governments are going to regulate cryptocurrencies. And when they do so, they're going to regulate the cryptocurrencies out of existence. Can they do that? Let me ask you this. Can the governments regulate liquor out of existence? The answer is no. We already know this. Can the governments have a war on drugs and eliminate drugs out of the system? They have done this as well. We know the answer to that is no. Can they do this with Bitcoin? A global, borderless, censorship-free, permissionless, immutable blockchain technology, meaning decentralized peer-to-peer blockchain technology. Can they regulate it? Yes. Can they regulate it out of existence? Absolutely not. If you can't regulate liquor out of existence, you're not going to regulate blockchain out of existence. But they can weaken blockchain. They can crash blockchain. They can create confusion, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They can introduce their own fiat cryptocurrency. And so we have, what do we have? We have Warren Buffett saying, naysaying. We have Harvard professors saying that Bitcoin is going to collapse under government regulation. And then we have senators who are warning that the nation, the government is about to be overwhelmed by Bitcoin and other kinds of cryptocurrencies. And so he's hoping that they can get ahead of it. And they want to have hearings on cryptocurrency. They want to have regulations on cryptocurrency. This is also a Senate Select Intelligence Committee Tuesday, how the financial system is preparing for the expansion of cryptocurrencies. And again, saying good things about the underlying technology of blockchain, but them not appreciating Bitcoin. And they say it's because the Bitcoin allows criminal activities. They use extenuating circumstances to want to remove the privacy of every single person on the planet. But it's not just about that. It's about the control. It's about the power and the control that money has in the world, in a government, in a society, where the banks and the banking system is a more lethal weapon, a more powerful weapon than any military. It's a more powerful weapon than even a nuclear bomb. Yeah, you can just like wipe out like a whole area, but man, a nuclear bomb creates resistance. You can squash resistance if you just have a global sort of currency with zero competition. And before blockchain technology, there was really zero competition. And so where is this moving into? Where are we going to? So what we have here, we talked about this before. This is WingCash, fasterpaymentsnetwork.com. You can also, they bought the domain name FedNotes with an S.com. And so we've been talking about FedCoin. They're calling it a FedNote, where this is a national digital currency platform proposed for the Federal Reserve. And so we're not going to go deep into this. We talked about this before. This is their company. This is a company that's given this proposal to the Federal Reserve upon the request of the Federal Reserve, when the Federal Reserve was requesting for proposals that were going to help the Federal Reserve create payment systems which were faster and more efficient. So this is just for your awareness. You can check this out, look more into it. What's the rest of the world saying? So over here we have the Bank of Israel. Bank of Israel is saying that cryptocurrencies are assets and not currencies. Again, they don't want to remove power for the fiat currencies. They want to maintain that fiat currency power for as long as possible. And it's very likely that, as Russia gets, crypto fiat, as the U.S. gets crypto fiat, we're going to see countries everywhere get their own crypto fiats. On a side note, we also know that the Israeli government supports Zcash. I always thought that was interesting. Let's see what their quote is here. So their quote over here at coindesk.com is, our assessment is that there's a real difficulty in issuing sweeping guidelines to the system regarding the proper way to estimate, manage, and monitor the risks that are inherent in such activity. And so they're more assets, not currencies, because of the way that these things are issued. Lots of companies, countries talking about the risks of Bitcoin, but at the same time, they're still allowing Bitcoin to exist. They're still allowing Bitcoin to come into their countries, and they're still talking about making their own crypto fiat as well. So this is really, really interesting. Over here at GhanaWeb.com, we see that invest 1% of Ghana's reserve in Bitcoin. The vice president group of Nuom Papawasa Chief has urged Bank of Ghana to diversify its investments and is encouraging their country to put just 1% of Ghana's reserves into Bitcoin. He doesn't think it's a gamble. And as we've heard before, that 1% that anyone puts into Bitcoin could be the 1% that saves you later if there ever was a major catastrophic, crash or situation with the fiat money. And the reason this is interesting is because if Ghana was to put 1% of their country's reserves into Bitcoin, there may be other countries around them who may put 1% of their reserves into Bitcoin. And then you may have larger countries that put 1% of their reserves into Bitcoin. And as countries and central banks around the world catch wind of this, it's going to cause just a firestorm of activity of banks and people seeking to get their 1%. And since there's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoins, there's currently only about 16.7 million Bitcoins. Everybody cannot have one. That price would go up quickly, exponentially. And trust me, banks around the world are already investing in Bitcoin. They're already holding Bitcoin. They're already doing this. Along this line, we've been seeing this across Asia and Southeast Asia, with some countries saying that they're going to ban Bitcoin, but other countries, like South Korea, saying we're definitely not going to ban Bitcoin. Bitcoin is totally legal. Make sure you pay your taxes, but they want Bitcoin to come into their country. And so we have Malaysia. They are not going to ban Bitcoin trading, confirms the finance minister, because Malaysia wants that Bitcoin to come into their country. Every country should want this. This is just crazy. This isn't happening more around the world. So it's not the intention of authorities to ban or to stop it that is perceived beneficial to the public. The finance minister stressed the importance for their citizens, though, to have a thorough understanding of digital currencies, because this puts the responsibility in your hands and it takes it away from centralized authorities, which would otherwise just do things for you. We also talked about India. India has been really, really anti-Bitcoin for a long time. But what we're seeing more and more and more is that there's more awareness, more adoption, more demand of Bitcoin in India. And we're starting to see some pivots in the headlines where Bitcoin is neither legal or illegal, starting to take the same line of conversation that other countries are having. And so Bitcoins in India, wallet operators go long on cryptocurrency. India, a lawyer files petition demanding cryptocurrency regulations. Exchanges in India seeking clarification over tax liabilities. There's this demand in India. India is a huge nation. They have huge monetary controls, and it'll be really interesting to see at what point India pivots over. So separate from India, we have Quebec. What happened here? We didn't have this headline, but China has an issue with how much energy they have, how much electricity they have, and so they're going to be throttling how much electricity people have and limiting how much electricity people have access to, which is going to remove supply for many of the Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin operators, who have already, taken advantage of that situation and become since rich and are probably already recognizing the need for diversification in their locations around the world. With the decrease in mining operations that may happen in China as this diversifies more around the world, Quebec is luring these cryptocurrency miners into Canada and just saying, hey, we have cheap electricity, we have very cold weather, and it may be a great place for you to set up shop. So over here at technode.com, Beijing District Court dismisses lawsuit against the Bitcoin exchanges. And so while on one hand, China is banning Bitcoin, banning exchanges, throttling the electricity, we also have Beijing, who's dismissing the lawsuits against the exchanges, who still want these exchanges to exist, obviously. The leaders in China, the judges in China, the politicians in China, they need a way to buy Bitcoin too. They can't have these exchanges shut down because they need their options to get their money out of the system. And so it's really against their best interest to allow Bitcoin. It's also against their best interest to ban Bitcoin. And again, this is the narrative that we're seeing all over the world. Over in Russia, we have the Putin advisor says the crypto ruble is going to help them circumvent sanctions, and the government remains divided about that. But the crypto ruble is going to help them alleviate the Western sanctions. And these instruments are going to help serve the state, allow them to settle accounts with parties around the world without having to worry about the middlemen, the middle players involved in the US dollar and the global banking system. People in Russia are going back and forth over and over and over about this, and we know from our previous videos that Vladimir Putin is just goo-goo and gaga over Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrency. He loves it. He wants St. Petersburg to be the Silicon Valley of the new blockchain world for the next 100 years. So this quote goes on to say that we will definitely get a virtual national currency. They've already started working on it. There have been the reports of a possible outright cryptocurrency bans in Russia in the past. The government's stance remains unclear, leaning toward regulation, allowing Bitcoin to come in, and get transferred into crypto rubles, allowing more wealth to come into that nation, and allowing that to happen without the restrictions from centralized bodies around the world, let it be governments or banking systems, even for Russia. And last but not least, we went over the US, we went over Russia, we've talked about India and lots of other countries around the world. The UK is mulling over the idea of a cryptocurrency, their own national fiat currency linked to the pounds sterling. And so this is coming out of a research unit established from the Bank of England, who's investigating this possibility. They've later since said that this is not something that is going to happen anytime soon, and they're not going to be issuing their own national currency. But as we know, the news can change very quickly from one moment to the next, and it's very evident that this is being researched. The underlying technology is of huge interest, as we hear over and over and over again, and using this technology between the central banks would be the most interesting application, allowing financial stability and efficiency. It just goes on to say that a widely used central bank digital currency would likely be considered a critical national infrastructure. It would need to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a year. It'd be subject and prone to hacking. And so these would just require an extraordinary level of resilience against a range of problems of cryptocurrency attacks, centralized influence, and different forms of market manipulation. And if these fiat currencies are just able to print more whenever they want, like Ripple, or maybe like Tether, as a lot of people speculate, then that would further deteriorate the faith in that fiat, as that fiat would continue to decrease in value, and the value and the buying power of Bitcoin BTC is going to be increasing in value. All right, everybody, that was a lot of information. Let me know if that was too much information, but it's all related, it's all connected. Just allow us to compare and contrast what's happening in the US and Russia and China and the UK, and not just on the countryside and the huge national side, but also on the consumer side and the local side. More local businesses accepting it, more large businesses accepting it, and I suppose in the middle you have these governments and these central banks that are just trying to figure out what to do. 2018, I think we're very likely going to see some fiat cryptos. And 2018, if we listen to people like these Harvard professors and Warren Buffett, we may see more government regulation, and that more government regulation, putting its hands around cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, maybe will happen at the same time that they introduce their own fiat currencies. Love to know what you think. Leave those questions and comments in the box below. Thank you for watching this content and learning about this information with me. Don't forget to tap that like button and subscribe. It encourages us so much, and it helps other people find this content. Also, if you're interested in behind-the-scenes access, special rewards, and a direct connection with me and our crypto community, then become our patron at patreon.com/mintingcoins or via our website at mintingcoins.com/join. We look forward to connecting with you, because together we are minting coins.